this will be my one and only NBA mock draft of the year, and I'm not a huge fan of mock drafts just because, obviously, like, we really don't know how these guys are going to translate to the league, and obviously, these front offices know a heck of a lot more than I do, and it's just not something I'm a huge fan of because the draft is so unpredictable. But I'm going to go ahead and do one just based off of what I think is going to happen. Obviously, as I said before, these front offices know way more than I do, so I could be completely wrong, and, it's just, this is difficult, but I'm gonna try my best. And real quick before I start, just a reminder that the NBA draft is this Thursday night if you're interested in watching it. But without further ado, let's hop into it. So the San Antonio Spurs hold the first pick in the NBA draft, and let's not overthink it. We all know it's going to be Victor Wembanyama. Now, I might not be as high on Victor as many other people, but it's undeniable that he is an insane talent. Mostly my only issue with him is that people are putting such high expectations on him, so anything less than basically the GOAT is kind of a disappointment. So, and I'm not a fan of putting that high of expectations on guys before they're even in the NBA. But of course, he is a 7'5", give or take some, unicorn. There's no doubt about that. He's going first overall. And it's already going to start getting interesting here. The second overall pick goes to the Charlotte Hornets. And it's between Scoot Henderson or Brandon Miller here. That is without a doubt. And this is going to be a decision on whether or not you want to go with talent or fit. Scoot Henderson, in my opinion, is the more talented player, but Brandon Miller would, in other people's eyes, fit better. But from my experience, the best players always find a way to fit. If you're a really good player, you're going to play whatever role they're going to need you to play, and you're going to play it well, and that's something I think Scoot will be able to do. So I have Scoot going second overall to the Charlotte Hornets. And that leaves a very easy decision for Portland at 3. It's going to be Brandon Miller here. And this is going to be another best player available scenario, and it's kind of tough to see what the Blazers are going to want to do here because they're in a weird place right now. They're a team that doesn't have very much direction. They have a lot of young talent, but then they have guys like Dame Lillard and Yusuf Nurkic and Jeremy Grant. Like, I'm confused, but you're going to want to do best player available here. That's what you're going to want to go for, so it's going to be Brandon Miller at 3 for me. And this is where it could start getting a little bit controversial once we get out of that top 3. At 4 is the Houston Rockets. I have them taking big-bodied forward Cam Whitmore. And I've liked Cam Whitmore as a prospect just because he's a really good, big-bodied two-way player. And I think he would be really good when it comes to taking pressure off of guys like Jalen Green and Jabari Smith. I think he would fit into that scheme well, and they are in need of a forward. I'm not sure if they're going to want to keep Kenyon Martin around. And the same thing will go for Jayshawn Tate. At 5 is the Detroit Pistons, and this was a really tough selection for me just because they're a team that if you go down their roster, they don't really need much because they really have a lot of young guys that it's really going to be up to them to develop, and that's should be their main focus here. But at 5, I have them going with forward Taylor Hendricks. And I would say going with him here is just going to be pair a good lob threat alongside Cade Cunningham. That's going to, for a guy who's really good at playmaking, give him a guy who can finish off of his playmaking. And I think that would be a smart decision here. And at pick 6 is the Orlando Magic. This is one of their 2 lottery picks. And I have them going with Asar Thompson. And where the Thompson twins go can vary. But for the Magic here, getting a guard on paper looks really smart, and they're going to be in need of one anyway, because so far Jalen Suggs, I would say, has underperformed based off of his expectations. And not only that, Markelle Fultz is lined up for a contract extension, and he could easily walk in free agency, so they'd be looking for his replacement if they decide not to re-sign him. And at 7 is the Indiana Pacers, and this is actually a pick that the Pacers said they were looking to shop for a starting caliber wing, but I'm not doing trades in this just because that's a lot of extra work that I really don't feel like doing right now. So I'm going to have them selecting Jarvis Walker, who is a forward, so he could play wing for them if they really need him to, but I think he would match well with the play style of Tyrese Halliburton, and he's very versatile, which I feel is underrated for him, and he's a very skilled playmaker, so if you have 2 skilled playmakers, one at a guard position and one at a forward position, that can get lethal. At number 8 is the Washington Wizards, and they are quite literally a team with 0 direction. I'm recording this after they already shopped Bradley Beal, but they still have Kuzma and Porzingis, who are on the older side, so honestly, I have absolutely 0 clue what they plan on doing over these next few years. But they're going to want to go with a good guard, in my opinion, a guy to replace Beal's production. And I have that being Amen Thompson. This is a guy who is an elite shot creator who has a really nice combination when it comes to passing and athleticism. So I have him going here at 8 to the Wizards. At number 9 is the Utah Jazz, and I have them taking Keyonte George here. And usually, I'm not a fan of going off of upside, but this guy has a lot of it, and other than Lauri Markkanen, the Jazz don't really have much to be excited about, so I think going for a high upside guy for them is high risk, high reward, but if you miss out on him, then who really cares? At number 10 is the Dallas Mavericks, and I have them taking Anthony Black. Now, this is a guy who's really, really good when it comes to making his teammates better, especially star teammates, with his ability to process plays really, really fast. And he thrives in basically any role he's thrown into, which is really going to help alongside Luka, with Kyrie Irving more than likely leaving in free agency. At 11 is the Orlando Magic, and I have them taking Big Grady here. And he's known for his sharpshooting skill, which is something that if you look down this Orlando roster, they're not exactly known for. So adding a little bit of variety to this roster can never be a bad thing. At 12 is the Oklahoma City Thunder, and in my opinion, they're in the same boat as the Pistons for me, where they have a lot of young guys. All they really need to do is develop them well. So I have them taking Cason Wallace here, and basically, in my eyes, what they're going to want from him is be a good facilitator out of that backup guard role. And 13 is the Toronto Raptors, and they kind of remind me of the Trailblazers situation here, where they have young guys like Scotty Barnes, but then they have older guys like Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam. And this could be a stretch, but I kind of expect Toronto to blow it up soon after they have a new head coach coming in after the firing of Nick Nurse. So I expect both VanVleet and Siakam to not be on the roster soon. And hate me all you want for that, that's just what I believe. But I think they're going to select Jet Howard here to kind of replace Siakam's production. And you could argue that Siakam plays center sometimes, and Jet is a small forward and or power forward, but either way, he's a guy who's going to end up replacing his production, a much younger guy, and in my opinion, I'm not a huge fan of Siakam's game. And in my opinion, Siakam is the perfect image of a guy who had so much talent, all the talent in the world, but just never really made the next step. Alright guys, we have reached the final selection that I will be doing today, pick 14, and I probably should have said it at the beginning of the video, but I'm only doing the draft lottery. So at pick 14 is the New Orleans Pelicans, and I have them selecting big-bodied guard Jalen Hood here. And I think this is mostly going to be for him to replace CJ McCollum in a few years, depending on how long he's going to last. And from everything I've seen, he has shades of Spencer Dinwiddie, and I think if you have a Spencer Dinwiddie alongside Brandon Ingram and maybe Zion, I guess, I'd say you'd be pretty happy with your selection. But guys, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I really hope you liked the video, and be sure to let me know what you think I got wrong or what you would do in the comments. But with that said, I'm Chris Higgins, and this has been Fanatic Breakdown.